back! Stay back! Stay back!
I held my ground before she could knock me back. If I pulled away from her, she would only send 1,000 spikes my way. Their relentless assault like a rapid-fire Gatling gun. Being at such close proximity to Kurou allowed me to analyze and comprehend her power. Even if her wings fired hundreds upon hundreds of spikes my way, she could keep regrowing them one after the other, like a shark with its lost teeth. In other words, the farther back I escaped, the harsher this battle would become. While individual spikes posed no threat on their own, in great enough numbers they would eventually wear me down. In my state-of-the-art regenerative capabilities, I would find it difficult to recuperate from such a relentless onslaught. However, this distance would work in my favor, for it allowed me to pick up on the sounds for her spikes. Every time her wings ejected a spike, they made a faint tearing sound. Exactly which spike would come flying at me next was something I could easily predict at such a close range. Yet one problem still remained. Every time a sword clashed with her wings, a thunderous echo, both pleasant and unsettling at the same time, would resound in the air. Her 6 wings launched attack after attack with skill far surpassing that of an average combatant using only their 2 hands. One such attack grazed my left shoulder. As I cursed my luck, a series of consecutive slashes crashed into me. Fresh blood blossomed crimson as she slashed my arteries open, the spike piercing my heart.
This is my domain, my very soul. Leave at once!
Her words of rejection boomed triumphant in the air, her myriad of spikes tearing deep into my body, or so went the illusion I had conjured up.
What?
Quietly circled behind her back, latching onto her wings from behind. The illusion created through the power of lust revealed its false nature and vanished into nothingness upon being attacked. Needless to say, my illusion was by no means as powerful as Lilith's. Yet, in a battle such as ours, where swift decision-making and constant awareness of one's foe were both vital, it served its purpose with flying colors. I had but one objective to focus on from this angle. These steel wings of hers, all 6 of them, my breathing evened out as I held my steel aloft with the precision of a master swordsman. Steel flashed, in a fraction of a second, her wings were no more. Paying no heed to her resistance, I tore off each wing, one by one, using both my hands and my sword.
Stop! Give back my wings!
These wings were never yours. They belonged to Abdiel.
No! No!
The slow, sickening sound of flesh being torn resounded in the air as her wounds left behind a bright red trail of fresh blood. I did find the act somewhat repulsive, but at the moment, incapacitating her eclipsed any such unpleasantries. With every new wing plucked, Kurou cried out in agony, begging me not to rob her of any more. Her pleas fell on deaf ears. I continued my terrible work, purging my heart of all empathy. One more wing yet remained. At this rate, she would not be able to fly anymore.
I reject you.
And with the words left her lips, the very air around us turned frigid, quite literally. My entire body began to freeze over. What? I attempted to gain some distance, found my hand glued tight to her wing, which had frozen stiff due to a sudden drop in temperature. In a split-second decision, I ended up severing my own hand and kicked myself away from Kurou. Once it did, the temperature in the vicinity began to rise, sending a fresh stream of blood to gush forth from my stump. I commenced the regenerative procedure through the power of the nanomachine. Sukuna Hikona. The whole process would take about 5 minutes. Though my right hand would remain completely useless during that time interval, a far greater threat was also looming on the horizon. A wave of noise washed over my mind. I could hear Lilith whispering into my ear.
She's about to unleash her raison d'etre. Have you figured yours out? The reason why you exist?
No. I had no answer to that question. Lilith claimed that she would use me as an expendable asset. I willingly consented to that. I came here for that purpose alone. There is nothing more to it, or so I thought.
That's merely a solution spoon-fed to you by an external party. Are you really fine without a tone, without a lump?
I was. I should have been.
Yet your raison d'etre still remains inactive. Why is that? Is there truly nothing more you desire?
Being expendable, disposable asset. Had I truly accepted that?
Find it. That's an order.
Whether the cut or a telepathic connection, Kurou's whisper of a voice had evolved from mere words to a powerful incantation, birthing further changes in the world.
I do not need mankind, nor animals, plants, or robots. I have no need for anything that moves by its own power.
The words were the hymn to curse the world at large, a poem to reject all creation.
I defy all I ought to serve. I rebel against all I ought to defy. I take up arms against comrades and friends till only I remain alone and desolate. I reject. That is my raison d'etre.
The one remaining wing grew in size, generating a sizable magnetic field. A moment later, I found myself forcibly hurled backwards, crashing through the windows of a building. That was hardly the end of it, though as the magnetic field did not subside, I crashed through 4 more buildings, and ended up literally embedded in a wall. Didn't utter a word. Had already stopped feeling pain, otherwise, I very well screamed in anguish. I began to think, what had just happened? Or maybe crashed through 4 entire buildings? The answer was all too evident. This was Kurou Miyako's raison d'etre given form, the power of rejection. 6 wings or 1, it hardly mattered. He would carry out this function all the same. In fact, Abdiel himself possessed but a single pair. At that very same angel, in his ordinariness, and up stirring the flames of a tremendous conflict that swept across heaven and hell alike. Kurou Miyako, who devoured him, who similarly rebelled against all existence in a stubborn adherence to her concept of rejection. The wing stood as a symbol of that. It grew to immense height, upon comparing it to Kurou's own body, estimated to be about 6 meters. Kurou herself fell prostrate onto the ground as her wings towered to the heavens above, clad in myriad steel spikes. Each and every spike came equipped with a wide variety of defensive techniques. Their defensive capabilities went beyond merely inducing a magnetic field. The spikes would provide protection through a variety of means, from the occult, magical, and spiritual, to gravitational. It's the perfect protective barrier, dispelling and rejecting all they encountered, vying only for solitude. To stand and continue to exist, alone in isolation. Such was the path Abdiel, consequently, Kurou Miyako, had chosen. You know what, Angel? You narrate this.
Equality was the fundamental rule that governed her world. However, beneath such an official statement, in the shadows there still lurked those trodden, bereaved, even for a chance to give voice to their sorry state, and Kurou Miyako was one such person. There was no particular reason behind her cursed fate. A sacrifice selected with no bias and at complete random by a computerized identification system supervising family registers. That was Kurou Miyako, nothing more and nothing less. She was scorned by words and violently downtrodden. She suffered attempts at murder for no particular reason. She lived on, stripped of all her dignity as a human being. No one would touch her. No one would care for her. She would suffer violence on a daily basis, kicked off the roadside with no more thought than one flicks aside a pebble. The world writhed under a coating of filth and grime. She would believe in no god, no angels, no demons, for the very act of clinging to a higher being filled her with disgust. And so, when Abdiel descended from the skies to embrace her, she resisted fiercely. Even upon learning of the terrible danger threatening the whole of the world, she would remain unmoved. All she cared for was to lead a school life without suffering, to have something to eat each day. Those were days of constant, unchanging bliss. At times, certain students would leave the classroom, never to return, yet not a soul paid any heed to it. Despite all that, she felt at peace. She had no friends to call her own, only a horse that acted as such, a gift from Abdiel. Unlike all other angels, he would never once urge her to act.
Go for it.
One day you will embark on your pilgrimage. I simply have that feeling. Girl Miyako rode her horse across the athletics field, dismissing such notions as ridiculous, yet one day she came to a realization. That this world was far more fragile than them, which, in turn, stood as all the more reason to treasure it. Her horse was no exception either. The animal she nicknamed Abd came to mean the world to her. She had an amiable nature to begin with. No matter how much scorn, pain, and abuse she had to endure, love would still blossom within the depths of her heart. She simply had no one to shower with that affection. The moment she gained a being like that, her desire to protect the world grew fierce and resolute. I've decided to start my pilgrimage. Abdiel's lips broadened to a cheery smile. This somewhat jovial angel, who nonetheless had no one to call a true friend, managed to pique her interest. She met people who had succumbed to madness just from traversing the first stratum. Yet she still fought them, just as she had been taught to. Abdiel protected her well. His steel, though not holy blade, was polished to a perfection after fighting countless battles, its terrible swings devastating all maddened foes that dared stand in the girl's way. The two of them eventually toppled the third stratum, inevitably reaching the fourth. By this point in their journey, the young girl had grown pale and weary. Her unhappiness was born of but one critical issue. She was, despite belonging to the elected few, but a simple mortal human woman. Even as she fought to overcome all the cruelty of fate made her endure, at the end of the day, she was only human. Waves upon waves of an incessant chorus reverberated across her mind. Be happy, be blessed, be soothed, live in peace, praise the Lord, praise the Lord. Concerned for her well-being, Abdiel rushed to Kurou's side. She, on the other hand, knew there existed only one way that could free her from this torment. To paint an example, She lived in a state where her arms and legs were both being pulled at simultaneously. Both desperately urged her to come to their respective side. This resulted in pain intensive enough to make her feel like she was on the verge of being torn apart. So what was she to do? How could she rid herself of this agonizing pain? The answer was clear. Her legs were pulled on by humanity, her arms by the angels. In which case, she merely needed to ascend to a position close to that of an angel. She grabbed firm hold of Abdiel's shoulders, meeting his confusion with a smile. Her mouth gaped open, and although he comprehended what was about to happen, the sheer purity of her intentions left him paralyzed. All disgusting sounds. Abdiel did not resist, could not. He simply allowed himself to be devoured, his expression reflecting profound sorrow. He mouthed an apology to the Lord and to Lucifer. And so, as he began to pray, the realization struck him swift as lightning. He lived as Abdiel, the angel who trusted no one and walked a solitary road. Who would he pray to in this hour? Yaldabaoth, the false god? The one true god who Abdiel had yet to lay eyes upon? Or some other being? He had no answer. And with that, Abdiel perished, a bitter smile coloring his final moments. Kurou Miyako descended back onto the second stratum to be reborn as its master. A handful of humans and angels would reach her domain from time to time. If they failed to heed her warning, she would obliterate them without mercy. Memories of her past life at Pandora soon faded into obscurity, washed clean by the crimson of carnage and bloodshed. Yet through all the chaos, one thing still remained vividly clear in her mind. Abd. The horse she loved more than anyone else in that world. She wondered how he was doing. Abdiel reassured her that the spirit double would take good care of the animal, but that person was not her. Not truly. Those who embark upon a journey could often find solace knowing there was someone waiting for them back home. Such knowledge would pour strength into their weary bones, granting them the will to survive, to press on. Yet Kurou Miyako was different from the rest. She grew vehemently attached to those she left behind. Knowing she might never meet them again filled her with despair. No angel, no demon could peer into a mortal's heart to discern its complexities. And so, Kurou Miyako was born as Akibara's master, refusing to let anyone stand in her way as she herself vowed to stay infinitely out of reach, wielding the power granted to her in order to reject and defy the world at large. My world makes me complete. I will journey to heaven and fulfill myself upon its lifeless, deserted plains.
No textile solitude, a poem to sing isolation's bliss. That was all she ever wished for, but here they stood, intent on opposing her. They who would tear her dear solitude to shreds, who would tarnish its beauty, she would never forgive them. Her hatred burned like hellfire. So she would stand her ground, fangs and spikes bared, her protective shell swelling ever larger. The intruder stood up, casting a composed look my way, his gaze frigid to the point of being unsettling. Oh, this is your line, sorry.
Was that whole thing mine?
Yeah, it's from your perspective.
Oh my god! Anyway, I would kill him, destroy him, make it so that he never even existed in the first place. Kurou Miyako's bloodlust flared into a raging tornado as she unleashed her gravitational energy.
Moments after I stood up, I felt my body wrenched from the inside. Something repeatedly smashed me into the walls and the floor. Gah! The sheer confusion I felt eclipsed the pain. I needed to gain some distance and fast. The visible force, unseen by the naked eye, kept up its ferocious assault. It's the most likely gravitational energy interfering with all things in my surroundings, including the insides of my body. I feel every gravity vector in my body, on a millimeter scale, forcefully change direction. Both of my legs, my knee, my calf were each being pulled in completely different directions. My muscles were unresponsive to all commands, preventing me from fleeing. The blood flow changed directions. My nanomachines refused to function, rendering my healing capabilities useless. Minuscule change in the gravitational energy left my head a pounding. Dizziness, robbing my brain of its supply of oxygen, gives us labor to consciously inhale air. To defeat me here, utterly and thoroughly. I lacked even the strength to form a coherent thought. That was the first obstacle I needed to overcome. Yet, I found the dizziness amplified tenfold. The pain was near unbearable. I could feel my gastric juices crawling back up my throat. My inability to properly regulate my body's temperature sent a harsh chill down my spine. In the meantime, my headache refused to subside, assailing me with pain so intense I felt myself on the verge of clawing out my own eyes from their very sockets. I was gonna die here. I would perish like a dog, reduced to dust, swiftly and mercilessly. Nika?
Tell me, don't you feel too conceited?
Your voice is all gobbly for some reason, Nika.
It is? Wait, hold on.
It's a bit garbled.
Is it test? Is this better?
It's still a little bubbly.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Maybe I'll check those settings that you guys told me about before. Test,
I think
test.
it gains slightly high, probably.
Test. Tell me, don't you feel you're just a little bit too conceited?
A voice rang my ears. One I recognized as familiar. Its echo rang with malice and beauty alike. A memory I wish to both forget and embrace.
How foolish! You live in the moment, remember? I don't deny you're exceptional, but there are plenty others like you. Soon you will become someone fully exceptional, but you mustn't ever forget this. Ah, Setsuna. My dearest, beloved, detestable Setsuna. I love you from the bottom of my heart.
Once faded memory swam to the surface of my mind again, faintly jolting my brain awake. Defeat was not an option. No matter the odds, I would defeat Kurou Miyako and ensure Sorami's safety. But this order was absolute. I need to do everything in my power to accomplish the task it had given me. My life no longer belonged to me. I directed all remaining strength to amplify my combat prowess. Do it. Just do it. Stand and fight and kill. Protect her. I rebuilt the thought processes of my mind, forcefully activating a region that normally lay dormant, rearranging it as data blocks. The haze, the ones blanketing my mind, dispersed in a matter of seconds. I began simultaneously calculations and analysis almost immediately afterwards. I rose to my feet and took a step forward, all the while being conscious of the haphazard changes in my entire body's gravity vector. My mind was awash with calculations, leaving no room for fear. Detecting the shifting gravity, I probably administered the change to its vector, effectively ridding myself with pain and disorientation. In order to resist the change in gravitational conditions, I accelerated my blood flow and heart rate, circulating blood to every last corner of my body. I leapt forward and took to the skies. Brandishing the sword as 10 deadly sins, I willed the beast of gluttony into existence.
How dare you!
Rays of gravitational interference lashed out the beast, rejecting its very existence alongside the rest of the world. The monstrosity raged and bellowed before finally plummeting towards the ground below, having crumbled under Kurou's merciless onslaught. But thanks to that, I saw through our timing. The gravitational waves traveled slow, probably even slower than sound. I fixed my eyes on the tip of her spike. A slight tremble ran across it. Now!
Take this!
I could dodge it! Immediately plummeting downward, I somehow managed to evade her invisible gravitational waves. I lashed onto the shocked Kurou, having finally caught up to her, then proceeded to take a firm hold of her wings with both hands. Paying no heed to Kurou's terror, began tearing off one remaining wing, ignoring both the gravitational waves,
No!
as well as the numerous spikes piercing my body.
Stop it! Stop it! Stop it! Stop it!
I tore off her wing without a shred of mercy or a hint of compassion. Kurou's cry was rife with anguish as she fell. She had lost all her wings, and with them, the ability to induce gravitational interference, reject outsiders.
I reject you!
She brandished her sword in one final attempt to make a difference. It was all but futile. With perfect composure and self-control, I pulled my Piketty sword from its pocket dimension and buried its blade deep into her stomach. The moment Kurou sat up, a fresh mouthful of blood, I, oddly enough, felt my body loosen up and relax. The gravitational conditions of the area had finally returned to normal. Give it up, Kurou Miyako. She broke down in tears. Whether it was the pain, the dawning realization of defeat, or some other emotion that ravaged her heart in that moment, I could not tell. Nor did I feel I needed to. I lifted the sword of the 7 deadly sins, placing its blade next to her neck. May now rest in peace.
Peace? You dare talk of peace? How dare you? How dare you? I will create my own ideal world. I won't have anyone, especially the likes of you, stand in my way!
Despite my reflexive attempt at guarding the incoming attack, her fierce kick, fueled by pure, raging hatred, sent me flying a good 10 meters, possibly even more. I managed to stop myself just short of the building's edge. Kurou Miyako was still very much overflowing with bloodlust and hostility, a fact that immediately made me regret underestimating her capabilities.
I'm going to kill you.
She spoke in a low voice, her tone brimming with hatred. Unnamed sword she held in her right hand, pulsing with a blade tinted the crimson of blood. This darkened hue, no doubt, standing a testament to the numerous battles if the steel had granted Abdiel victory. Something sounded question, I guess. Her blade would take my head long before I could have the chance to summon any of the Piketty beasts. In other words, our fates here would be sealed through sheer fencing skill alone. I took a lungeful of air, holding it in.
Ha!
Just when I thought she would lunge for it, Kurou instead launched a horizontal slash aimed at my neck. Despite my reaction being a heartbeat slower than it should have been, the slash proved slow enough for me to easily deflect from a Piketty sword. However, that alone would not slow her down. With her swords still locked together, she pressed ever onward, intent on letting her steel bite into my neck. Centimeter by centimeter, her blade edged ever closer to my face, driven by Kurou's inhuman strength. Even in such a state, I found myself at an overwhelming disadvantage. Slowly but surely, I began to yield to her relentless pressure. Smacking my lips, I launched a kick towards the side of her head, owing to his point-blank range. The kick itself was lacking in power, yet it could still work to hold her back. As I landed a clean hit on her temple, Kurou groaned in anguish, her grip on the blade loosening. For a moment, I considered putting some distance between us, but soon discarded the thought. It would only end up as a repeat of what had occurred a short while back. Instead, I purposefully relaxed my strength. I shifted my body to the side, allowing her nameless blade to graze my side. Kurou collapsed forward, exposing the white of her slender neck. Seeing it, I looked at my blade to strike. Remember the way she rode Ab that day. To think of her recalled such a memory now, of all times. Discarding my sword, I set it out to deliver a strike to her nape beside my palm. A groan followed, then she fell unconscious to the ground. Have I succeeded? I scooped up her blade from the ground, throwing it far into the distance, then with wavering steps, carried Kurou back to the other girls.
I guess I should congratulate you. Wait, she's still alive?
The wound on her stomach may have been severe, though not lethal. If left like this, she could easily regenerate through Abdiel's power. She is. Placed Kurou onto the ground, allowing both Lilith and Raziel to take a good look at her. The former's expression deflected a clear discontent, the latter, bewilderment.
Is that me?
No. Kyle, still with me?
They're typing.
Okay. Okay, tech issues.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes.
Okay. Oh, I see. But she can't fight anymore, right? Shouldn't it be fine to treat her wound?
Lilith, breathing a weary sigh, put a quick stop to Sorami's line of thought.
No. Look, I understand how you feel, but we can't. She's better off dead.
Don't you think that's a tad cruel?
No, I don't. This is for her sake. Actually, we did recover Maanime angels and demons in the past. Humans too.
Lilith's gaze was ice, yet I couldn't help but feel like she was struggling to maintain her composure.
What happened to them?
They died. Every last one of them. Even with all of their powers sealed, they bashed their heads against the wall, bit their own tongues, and breathed their last with a content smile on their lips.
Once madness took over one's mind, they were finished. They would attempt to reach heaven by quenching their insatiable lust for death. To those claimed by insanity, heaven meant everything. Reaching its gates stood as their utmost goal. A master erected solitary heaven their own making, existing only for them. They most likely believed that their actions would inevitably lead them to heaven.
No matter what was said or asked, they would give us no clear answers, nor would they ever regain their sanity. If we kill them now, we can still give them a painless end.
Time had come to put an end to this, or rather, to put her out of misery, to let her rest.
But
There's no room for buts, Raziel.
Raziel approached Kurou as she still lay on the ground, unconscious. The angel placed her palm upon the girl's forehead and called out in a melodic tone.
Abdiel. Abdiel. Are you in there?
Kurou's left eye shot open, eliciting panic reactions from all of us, save for Raziel. He lifted a hand to calm us. The young girl remained on the ground, feeling no need to stand. Her lips, the left side of them in any case, curled into a smile.
Whose voice do you want for this?
It's yours, Angel.
Okay. It has been far too long, Raziel.
Her voice flowed forth like a lullaby, soothing my strained nerves.
Indeed it has. Countless moons have come and gone since we last talked.
Abdiel appeared to still be present within Kurou Miyako's body.
Do forgive me for these circumstances. The mortal in my care seems to have caused you no end of trouble.
Wait a sec, Abdiel. You are Abdiel, right? You're still alive?
The angel responded in an unconcerned tone.
I am not like other angels or demons. Myself and the girl, that is, Kurou Miyako, we both proclaim rejection to be our raison d'etre. Even as she devoured me, we continued to firmly reject each other.
Abdiel smiled, and this time he looked at me.
Which is why I'm assuming the fight gave you no particular trouble, correct?
Her words left me shocked. It was a tough battle. Actually, the kind where one wrong move could have easily spelled my doom. Truth be told, only won by a hair's breadth. If Kurou had been at full strength, she would no doubt killed me with the very first gravitational wave. Abdiel flashed his knowing smile.
In any event, I have a number of things to tell you about why madness has claimed me.
Wait, did you learn something?
Abdiel nodded.
Give up on heaven.
Give up on it?
What do you mean?
Huh? Aren't we doing this whole pilgrimage thing to open the gates of heaven?
I meant exactly what I said. Heaven is no paradise, merely a realm existing above the clouds, nothing more. The fiercer men yearn for heaven, the more they wish to reach it. The easier it will become for them to succumb to insanity. Raziel, you knew of this, didn't you? That's why you failed to return to heaven and chose to wander listlessly upon the earth.
That may be true.
Raziel bit her lips while averting her gaze from Kurou.
One more thing. The angels and demons assembled at Tokyo Babel are not nearly as unified as one might believe.
Huh?
Sorami found herself at a loss for words. Her surprise was only natural. What angel or demon would waste their breath on petty struggles when the world itself was in danger? Without a solution, the whole world, angels, demons, immortals, along with it, would succumb to ruination. Only fools would busy themselves with scheming in a situation like this severe.
I talk not of mere power struggles. There exist those out there who must certainly scheme something with a very specific goal in mind.
But who?
Following a brief moment of hesitation, Abdiel went on.
Astaroth. That demon harbors intentions differing from those who desire unity and cooperation.
He's kinda sorta our current leader, though.
It is his duty, then, to safeguard all demons, angels, and humans?
That's...
Very well. I'll try looking into this.
And a relief washed over Abdiel's features upon hearing Raziel's words. He rarely shook his head, forcing a weak smile.
Raziel, I believed you would stand at my side.
Perhaps it was providence that our paths diverged, for better or worse.
Abdiel, in his love for man, rebelled against God and Lucifer alike. Raziel, in their love for man, granted them wisdom.
I simply felt love for mankind. To bear a grudge against the angels or even God? I could never.
Raziel, I now realize the mistake I had made that day. I called that being Yaldabaoth, the false god, but I was mistaken.
How so?
Abdiel continued on with a smile.
The being I detest is none other than the one true God.
The words must have come as a tremendous shock to both Lilith and Raziel, who simply glared at Abdiel, unable to say a word. Sorami and Maanime looked at each other, exchanging a thoughtful look.
Abdiel? Why exactly do you hate God?
With Lilith and Raziel having fallen into a deep silence, Sorami stepped up to speak in her stead, leveling a question at Abdiel.
I once believed God could do no wrong, for only demons and fallen angels would err. But that line of reasoning stood at a sharp contrast with the facts.
I could then, a trifling little demon, fool the almighty and omnipotent God. Would God intentionally turn the other way every time the demons hatch a scheme?
I then concluded that God must have been a fake, an imposter. Consequently, there existed another, true God out there.
No, never. Nonsense. I refuse to accept that. How could I? God is the absolute being, but then, where does God truly dwell?
And so I came to a realization. I was fooling myself, thinking such a God existed. God was neither absolute nor omnipotent. He may possess a power immense enough to create worlds, but...
After his smile broadened.
But that was all. At its core, God was no different from angels, demons, or even humans.
How could that be true?
Raziel shook her head in protest, yet failed to offer a counter-argument.
Be ever vigilant. In the end, even I had failed to take notice of it, but this divine calamity, there must be a reason for it.
A reason?
A cruel reason, no doubt. Maybe even irrational. God may very well have simply grown bored of this world.
Wait, what? The world would end for a reason like that?
Color had faded from Lilith's cheeks.
Lilith, you must have suspected it too. That's good. Stay like that. You. And those humans as well.
Abdiel, may I ask a question?
Ask.
What exactly drove Kurou Miyako to madness?
She was strong, a tough young woman that refused to give up even in the face of constant adversity. Yet according to her own wishes, I gifted her a horse.
You mean Abd?
Once she set out on her pilgrimage, she would need to part with that horse. Partings do tear into every man and woman's heart, and for her, it was a particularly painful experience. Her happiness meant staying at that horse's side.
So, you misjudged her.
Indeed, I did. I misjudged everything, and that is my sin to bear, not hers. Please forgive me. Please. Please.
Abdiel closed his eyes.
I wonder, where will I end up after I die? I want nothing to do with heaven, hell, or even purgatory. In which case, I suppose all that awaits me is nothingness.
With that, Abdiel was no more. Moments later, Kurou Miyako's consciousness appeared to have returned.
No!
She cried out, her entire body trembling.
Abd! Abd! My one and only Abd! Please come help me, please! I'm begging you! Take me away from here! Don't leave me!
Her cries amplified to an ear-piercing scream. The girl who rejected a world, calling out to the sole being she accepted as a friend.
Miyako.
Sorami extended a hand. I gestured to stop her. She cast a sorrowful look on my way as I shook my head. There's nothing else to do. Nothing else we could do, other than kill her.
But, I mean, isn't there anything we can do for her?
Not a thing. Although...
Lilith placed a hand on Sorami's head, her fingertips lighting up with a spark for a split second.
Sorry, I peeked into your memories for a bit. This horse in question. Is this, right?
Lilith snapped her fingers. Seconds later, Kurou's expression turned to one of exalted joy as the sound of hoofs reached her ears. Truth is the daughter of time. Deception is the daughter of darkness. Lilith's raison d'etre, the illusions she conjured up, rivaled the real thing. One could touch them, feel them, even smell them. Kurou unsteadily rose to her feet and approached Abd, tears welling up in her eyes. She silently drew farther away from Kurou. Lilith lightly tapped me on the arm, giving me a meaningful look. The moment Kurou had embraced his horse, I was to end her life. I nodded. Dying in her happiest moment would be a kinder fate than drowning in tears and despair. Understanding that train of reasoning, not to do as she told me, she staggered towards the horse, leaving behind a trail of blood. After much struggle, she finally reached the animal and was about to embrace it. I felt an overwhelming density of bloodlust in the vicinity.
What?
Sorami! I pulled Raziel close to myself while sheltering a thoroughly confused Sorami. There was very little I could ultimately do, but out of the meager amount of options given the situation, I managed to pick the most optimal one. Brandishing my sword, I summoned a lion of pride, whose terrible roar temporarily deflected all incoming attacks. Lilith deflected the attack, seemingly an onslaught of arrow-like strikes on her own. The arrows rained down upon us, including myself, Sorami, Raziel, Lilith, and...
Why?
The sharpened arrow-like instruments pierced both Kurou Miyako and Lilith's Abd illusion. The illusion itself was lifelike enough that it was impaled the exact same way a real horse would. Kurou fell to her knees in despair, weeping as the animal sluggishly collapsed onto his side. In her cry, I could almost hear.
I believe that was my kill. I'm assuming this means I won the bet.
The sound of a tearing heart.
I wonder about that.
That's not
She
you.
was
That's
a-
not you.
Not you.
Sorry.
Is it me?
No, it's
Yes.
not. Oh, okay. Lenny?
Oh, I thought you said it was Duck. I wonder about that. He was already on the verge of death.
Did I have the right to feel anger?
I did give him ample amounts of time, though. The fact that he couldn't finish her within that time frame means I win the bet.
The arrows vanished alongside the horse illusion, leaving but Kurou Miyako's lifeless body on the ground.
Adam, you!
Lilith glared at the pair with contempt as they descended from the skies. The two didn't particularly mind, though, rather, they simply ignored her as they walked up to the corpse to inspect it.
Is she dead?
Yes, she is.
Are you certain she's not simply feigning it?
Adam cast a curious look at Kurou Miyako's lifeless body as he walked over to pick it up. Stop him. His actions resembled the curiosity of a child toying with an insect. Mia resembled me.
Absolutely certain, Adam. This is death, the complete halt of all life functions, the eradication of the spirit, and a return to nothingness.
I see.
Adam's tone turned nonchalant as he tossed the body back onto the ground.
Stop it!
Em, I'm ordering you to stop!
Sorami raised her voice as Raziel reached out to grab Adam by the arm. Lilith looked at him, her expression replete with anger. As for me, the body seemed to move on its own as it let out a vicious howl. The ball of fist crashed into Adam's face with all the strength it could muster, ready to shatter his very skull. Yet none of that came to pass. The skull certainly did not shatter. In fact, all I felt was a wave of throbbing pain in my fist. With all gazes locked on us, Adam spoke with a low tone, his apathetic eyes reflecting no emotion, no compassion, or even hatred. His were the kind of eyes that would show not a sort of concern at the sight of an abandoned puppy.
Forgive me, but I'm unable to comprehend what angered you to this extent.
His fist crashed into my abdomen. The sheer ferocity of his strike sent me staggering to my knees near instantly. I could tell he was holding back, yet this one punch of his still inflicted greater damage on me than the entirety of my fight with Kurou.
Which is why I saw fit to respond in kind.
His strike was powerful enough to cause interior damage, yet the sheer hostility I've been harboring against him since the day we met would not be extinguished so easily. I am still over here. I tapped Adam on the shoulder as he turned to look in Lilith's direction. The look of surprise on his face as he turned back set my heart racing. I sent another fierce punch his way, otherwise surprised by my own savagery. A thin trail of blood trickled downward from Adam's mouth. The punch must have torn his lips open. Following a brief moment of confusion, he came lunging at me again. Yet his next strike was nowhere near the level of his prior surprise attack. This would boasted immense power, but wasn't swift enough to outwit me. My counter landed a clean hit on his jaw with a hearty crunch. However, the strike left Adam unfazed as he went on to prepare his next blow. I longed, yearned to destroy him. My savagery knew no bounds. My thoughts spiraled wildly out of control, far beyond the realm of civilized rationale. Despite all that, my heart raced with excitement. He grabbed my leg as I kicked, sending me to the ground with a judo technique. For a brief moment, all my body functions came to a halt.
Good grief.
His eyes calmly considered me for a second, a glint of bewilderment flashing in his gaze. The very sight of it lit my heart ablaze in rage.
Answer me, Lilith. Raziel. Why did he lunge at me?
Lilith, possibly due to her past history with Adam, spouted the words with a tone of pure contempt.
Because you couldn't understand human sentiment if it came crashing into your face.
Sentiment?
Adam looked genuinely puzzled as his eyes widened.
Sister.
Eve stepped in front of Adam.
Eve, back down.
Lilith waved her long-absent sister away without any particular hesitation or concern. Eve, however, did not relent, taking another step forward. She finally spoke up, her expression desperate.
Allow me to apologize for Adam's behavior, so please.
Do I need to repeat myself? I'm talking to Adam. I have nothing to say to you.
Eve, she appears to want to speak with me. Please step aside.
Very well.
Eve made her way behind Adam once again, otherwise staring at the ground. I rose back onto my feet, and finally regained control of my body.
Setsuna, you okay?
Sorami rushed up to me, grabbing hold of my arm. I nodded, letting her know that I was fine, then directed my gaze at Lilith and Adam.
Alright. Allow me to ask once more. Lilith, I believe you said I couldn't understand human sentiment, correct?
I did.
In that case, educate me. What sentiment did I overlook in this case?
Well, that first attack of yours nearly hit us too. That was pretty bad for starters. Tell me, Adam, could you tell what she was trying to embrace?
No, but it looked like a horse.
Oh, bravo! It was the one and only horse she's ever loved. We plan to ease her pain by killing her alongside that illusion.
That's it?
What do you mean, that's it?
Adam frowned with suspicion, most likely was expecting a more profound reason.
Yes, that's all there was to it. You may not care about any of this one bit, but at least I've managed to learn something today.
And what might that be?
That you are far from what could be considered human. That's all. Anyway, sorry for holding you up. We'll handle recording the liberation of the second stratum. You go and find the way leading to the third on your own.
As Adam lost himself in silent contemplation, Eve tugged at his cuff.
Let us be on our way, Adam.
Answer me this at least. Am I mistaken?
Lilith let out a sigh as Raziel wistfully shook her head. In the end, I spoke up in their stead. Adam, you are mistaken. Adam threw a look of frigid contempt my way.
Do not lie to me, Tendo Setsuna. You understand this no better than I do.
Adam's response left me speechless. He was right. On his fundamental level, I did not comprehend the sentiments behind what I had witnessed earlier. What's the point of letting her see that horse, allowing her to die happy? I certainly understood that Lilith's action would allow her to die happy, but as to why there was a need to do it, that I could not comprehend.
You and I, we're the same.
For the first time, he looked straight at me. His deep blue eyes pierced me like a pair of glaciers. Adam was on the verge of saying something else, but the words never came. He turned the other way. In fact, I could somehow imagine what he was about to say, only seemed to further prove our likeness. And instead, would have no doubt said something like this. How dare you? How dare you imply we are the same? I felt contempt and animosity beyond our rationality. The very sight of him making my stomach turned. He must have felt the same, if he harbored no such feelings up till now. That changed in this moment. Even as he was leagues more powerful than me, the two of us now stood on equal footing.
I shall take my leave then.
Adam departed as I kept glaring at his back. Lilith shot another glance in Eve's direction. Eve gives a curt, apologetic bow, then hurried off to catch up with Adam. Lilith's abrupt clap brought our minds back from their somber depths.
Well, either way, we should give her a proper burial. I mean, this whole second stratum will soon be liberated.
As I glanced around, I noticed the steel spikes once littering the streets in great numbers, beginning to disperse into thin air. It took time for all the spikes blanketing the whole of Akihabara to completely vanish. Eventually, they would all return to dust.
We should bury her at a place where she won't be disturbed by anyone.
Dantalion and Kurou Miyako both rejected the world and longed for solitude, even in death. I assumed that's what they would have wished for. I found an out-of-the-way alley between two buildings, destroyed the concrete flooring, then placed her into the ground below. Once we covered the hole back up, I stuck Abiel's sword in the same spot where we buried her.
I realize this holds little meaning in a world without heaven or hell, but
Raziel uttered a brief prayer blessing to help their souls rest in peace. Yet, no such thing would be impossible. Neither Kurou's nor Abiel's soul would ascend to heaven. They vanished into the nether, never to return. All that remains is the mere vestige of herself at Pandora, a spirit leading an everyday school life in idleness for all eternity. I exhaled a deep sigh. There was no use thinking about it.
I'm so sorry, Miyako. I really am.
Sorami places her palms together in prayer, tears welling up in her eyes. She prayed in the Japanese style, though I very much doubted such a thing mattered to whoever may have been listening. As for Lilith, she peered into the distance with an indifferent gaze, her thoughts seemingly elsewhere. After all, she had learned something truly shocking just recently. In any case, had three matters that required urgent attention. Firstly, I had yet to discover my own raison d'etre. Secondly, I harbored clear and unmistakable hostility towards Adam. Not even knowing why, one wrong word would be out of Charlotte's throats, ready to spill blood. Third issue, something that went beyond just me on a personal level, must have weighed heavily on Lilith's mind just the same. Astaroth, the leader in command of all demons assembled at Pandora, the fact that he may be working towards a different goal than the rest of us. If that were true, it would no doubt be a shocking revelation. To say the least, even after divine calamity, Astaroth's demonic followers number in the hundreds. So, what could he be plotting? Our present situation was severe enough that anyone, even the most powerful or influential, would choose to overcome us hand in hand with their brethren.
Anyway, the path towards the third stratum is now open. We should find the gates and head back to Pandora for the time being. Seems like we have much to do.
Sorami's tone gave off hints of anxiety.
Will I be able to face Miyako after all that's happened?
Relax, she'll be transferred to another classroom. As long as Tokyo Babel stands, she'll be able to live out her days there in peace.
So I won't be able to see her again?
Nah, you could see each other. Do you want to?
After a moment of hesitation, Sorami silently shook her head.
Gotcha. With that said, Sorami, let's find the gate to the third stratum, shall we?
She gave Sorami a reassuring tap on the shoulder, eliciting a faint smile from her. So at last, I felt relief. We spent some time making our way across Akiba, where the encounter with Abiel may have clouded her mood, and decided to walk up next to Sorami.
It's been a day.
Since we met Kurou Miyako, you mean? She nodded.
We met yesterday and spent a bit of time talking. That's all we did. And here I am feeling like I could break into tears just about any second now.
You coiled her arm around mine, sobbing at short intervals. I see. Without uttering another word, I silently placed my free hand on her head, softly caressing her hair.
Sorami, are you okay?
Raziel's question came about as abruptly as the angel itself. I hadn't even noticed she was there.
Yeah, I'm fine. As chipper as I'll ever be.
Sorami jolted up, revealing the reddish marks under her eyes. She seemed a far cry from what could be considered chipper. You stay like this for a while more?
Is the stream frozen for me, or?
Oh, me too.
Yeah, on
Oh,
black
thank
for
God
me.
it wasn't just me.
What do you
Yeah, me too.
All the sound just went, and I'm like, oh fuck, what happened?
What do you see right now?
Lenny even read a line that I didn't even see. I'm still on chipper as I'll ever be.
I just
Yeah.
see
I'm also
Yeah.
chipper.
I just see
I
two
am also
purple
chipper.
boxes
I see-
floating in and out.
I see
It's
literally
now the
that.
two boxes
Just
for me
that.
now.
Same.
I wish it moved around the screen like the TV thing.
Yeah, like the snake.
Yeah.
Like that snake
Yeah.
game.
What do you?
Ah, there
it's
we go. It's
back.
back.
Oh, it's back.
Trying.
Huh? Yeah. I'd like to stay like this a bit more.
Sorby gave my arm a squeeze. She decided to still appear to be in the middle of digesting the day events, so I decided it couldn't hurt if we remained like this for another short while.
Okay, say no more.
Raziel trod next to Sormi, began caressing her hair.
Thanks, Raziel.
I'm an angel, you know?
Ah, right. I guess you are, huh?
I found it amusing how Raziel gave Sormi a sulky look the moment she said that.
Oh, that reminds me. I gotta find the entrance to the third stratum.
I'll probe around for traces of magical energy, which should allow me to more or less locate the general area. Once we have that, you can use your eyes and we should be good to go.
Raziel pointed in the direction of Akihabara's railway station.
Do you see something that way?
Sormi glanced in the direction Raziel was pointing at, and gave the station a long, hard look.
Oh, here? I found it! Guys, I found it!
We hurried to the pinpointed location, being a positively jubilant Sormi, jumping, hopping in place while fervently waving her arms around. Gate leading to the third stratum turned out to be an entrance of a building roughly a few minutes away from Akihabara station. Raziel pulled out her tablet. This was some sort of a sparkling stick that wriggled like it was made of mercury and had a cord attached to it. He stuck into the keyhole, which instantly changed shape to fit it, causing the door to let out a loud click.
Booting up pilgrimage program. Third stratum, Suidobashi access code confirmed. Coordinate match confirmed. Acquisition of temporary cipher key data confirmed. Expanding gate access authorization confirmed.
Raziel confirmed each item on the list, releasing them one by one.
Golden key compatibility data confirmed. Silver key compatibility data confirmed. Pilgrimage program completed.
She pulled out the cable.
That should take care of it. When the time comes for you to open this gate, the two keys you have.
So, this means we're saying goodbye to Akihabara too, then.
I'm afraid so.
A faint trace of melancholy lingered in her voice, though it hardly surprised me. All that remained was to regroup at Lilith and return to Pandora.
So where's Lilith?
It's certainly been gone for a number of hours now. Lilith? Reached out to for via telepathy, receive an answer straight away.
Yeah, I'm over at the arcade. Setsuna, come pick me up, will you?
She appears to be at a local arcade. Give me a second.
An arcade?
Seriously?
Leaving the two girls to their disappointment, I headed towards the arcade. Upon arriving to the place, I was greeted by a cacophony of shrill sounds, a clear sign that every single arcade machine was still functioning. And the guests who played them, of course, save for one girl.
Oh, good. There you are.
Lilith stepped away from her game the moment she spotted me. Is there something you wish to tell me? Her expression hardened in an instant, to the point where it was difficult to believe she had just been playing games here until just a moment ago.
Remember what Abdiel said? Well, what do you think? You believe him?
So that was it. She wished to hear my opinion.
It's a teeny tiny bit of a difficult topic to be brought up in front of those two, you see. Which is why I called you here.
With a few moments of consideration, I shared my own conclusions. I very much doubt Abdiel himself would lie. However, the possibility of someone having deceived him is alarmingly high. Abdiel had no reason to lie to us as he lay dying, especially since he was proud and noble enough to have sworn allegiance to neither angels nor demons. However, countless instances exist where a noble person who would otherwise tell no lies would end up doing just that, in circumstances where he is being led to believe that he's witnessing the truth. A third party bearing ill will towards him could easily devise something of that caliber.
As for who could deceive Abdiel, Camael's our only candidate, really.
On the other hand, we cannot dismiss the possibility that he told the truth. There's not a soul who could know that what Astro is planning.
Actually, I wouldn't jump to that conclusion so fast. Lucifuge, that geezer who never once leaves his side, he could know something.
Lucifuge.
Astaroth and the old man, they make quite the pair, I gotta say.
Do you require more information? Possibly through eavesdropping?
If we try using some crummy old surveillance magic, they'll just detect it in a heartbeat. No point doing that. Tell you what, how about we send in a spy?
I doubt we have anyone who could qualify as one, though.
Oh, but we do. The best possible candidate.
Could think of but one human. A girl who would greet everyone with the broadest of smiles and shy away from no one, regardless of who they were. Sorami? I picture her in my mind for a second, flashing $1 million smile and posing with peace sign, blurting out a yay or two while she was at it.
She could hold her own against Astaroth and Lucifuge without too many problems. That's something neither of us could pull off, am I right?
She was right, but that didn't mean Sorami could retrieve exactly the information we needed. Lilith knit her brows upon hearing this.
Well, fair point. But with that girl, I have a feeling she'll end up getting us both useful and useless information. And that would actually make it harder for them to sniff us out.
That not be dangerous, though?
It's still less risky than continuing on with our pilgrimage like this. Hell, we can't even rule out the possibility they'll send a pack of assassins after us.
As Lilith snapped her fingers, all lights in the arcade went out at once. Tranquil silence fell upon the entire building. Only two of us remained, carrying on a secret little conversation in the dark. If Astaroth does indeed have a plan of some sort, do you think he could be scheming?
That's exactly the part I'd like to know more about. I mean, scheming? Are you kidding me? In this situation, scheming only makes sense if the world is at peace.
Her train of thought certainly made sense. In my universe, no one would dare to scheme with the world teetering on the brink of destruction.
Either way, at the very least, I'd like to avoid getting the short end of the stick. And, maybe we should keep this a secret from Sorami and Raziel.
Sorami I can understand, but why include Raziel, too? Lilith hesitated for a second or two, wanted to go on with a sour expression.
Let's just say I don't fully trust her.
Why? Peculiar feeling of irritation stirred in my chest. I kind of hadn't felt since then.
Don't get me wrong, I both like and depend on her. It's just that she has her own priorities.
Her book. To decipher Raziel, a tomb she had been searching for over 2 millennia.
Sorami has no goal of her own, which is why she trusts us. You're among her first friends. As for you, well, I doubt I'll have to explain it.
So it's because Raziel is the only one of us with a different goal. Lilith nodded, her expression awash with inexplicable revulsion aimed not at Raziel but her own self.
You've heard about her amnesia, right? How Raziel lost her memories of what happened around the time of the divine calamity?
I've also heard it was hardly a rare condition.
Only for lower ranked angels and demons. It would never happen to any of the 4 master angels, and certainly not to a high ranking one like Raziel.
Are you implying she's lying?
If only that were the case. No, I'm talking about something way worse. That something happened that not even Raziel could willfully overcome.
Something shocking enough to have triggered her amnesia. And that
Is something I'd love to know. Would make things a lot easier.
she exhaled a long sigh.
I really didn't want to say this, but if she were to decide between what was more important to her, us, or that book, I know she'd pick the book.
Is that truly the case, though? Would Raziel truly be heartless?
To Raziel, that book is like her own child.
Did she not entrust it to a human?
That was to show the angels how much faith she had in humanity. She did it voluntarily, not because God said so.
Which made losing it even more grave a matter. Let's let out another brief sigh.
I mean, it'd be nice if she could find something she'd love more than books, like a guy. Those angels don't know a thing about love, I'm telling you.
It was that one angel. Azazel, I believe?
Yep. The guy came down to earth from heaven and fell head over heels for beautiful mortal women. Raziel could do the same, honestly, if she found the right man. Get what I'm saying?
Lilith looked at me with sparks of excitement in her eyes, clearly dying to know what I thought of that last bit. I decided to simply ignore that last part and not say anything, nor did I pay any attention to Lilith smacking her lips in irritation.
Anyway, Setsuna, how about the future? Will you be able to fight?
I had to seriously consider that. Neither Gethel, nor Kurou Miyako, or Anthea with their full strength when I faced them. They were nowhere near their full potential, yet I fought them with all I had, still only muster an even battle. Did not fear death, not then, not ever. Would willingly decapitate myself if Lilith provided a reason that would necessitate it. But that was not our current situation. Now I had to fight and prevail, yet I still possessed a critical flaw. I had nothing to live for, no conviction to draw me, which is why I need to find it. A reason for my actions that went beyond Lilith's orders. Something that would drive me to overcome even the most terrible hardships for the sake of my pilgrimage. Suppose I would have to train hard. I had no other choice but to keep pushing forward. To put it simply, I barely had any actual combat experience.
Yep. Your potential's off the charts, basically surpassing even Pandora's very finest with all their psychic and supernatural talent.
I thought our training didn't sound all that bad. Liz landed a reassuring pat on my shoulder. The one remaining problem was how exactly I would train. Once Liz and I had finished our conversation, we met back up with Raziel and Sorami, then began the journey home to Pandora. Back home, we were greeted by the head angel, Camael, as well as the demon lord, Belial. Fat beards of sweat trickled down Camael's temple, while Belial, for some reason, was holding a pair of chopsticks and a rice bowl.
Oh? What's up with you two?
I heard you grew brave the second stratum, so I came running as soon as I could.
That's a bit extreme, don't you think?
What about you, Belial?
Oh, me? Dude told me to come along. Said I needed to represent demon kind or something. Chomp chomp.
Would appreciate it if you could finish your meal before talking.
Forgive him. Either way, it has been ages since any human made it across the second stratum. All's well that ends well, am I right?
You don't seem awfully pleased, though.
Belial eyeballed me curiously. I thought my expression was natural, so his word left me somewhat surprised.
Setsuna, he still hasn't found his raison d'etre.
Camael made no effort to hide his surprise.
Good job defeating the stratum's master in that condition, then. He who lacks the ability to conjure up his own world has no choice but to claim victory by his own inherent strengths alone. So that means you're giving up on the third stratum, then?
Belial spoke up instead, still in the middle of wolfing down his rice.
No reason he'd need to give up. Chomp chomp. Sorami, could you be a sweetie and bring me a can of tea?
Oh, me? Well, alright. Be back in a minute.
I know I cannot keep going like this forever, which brings me to a certain favor I would like to ask. After some hesitation, I ended up choosing Belial.
Yeah. What?
Could you train me, by any chance? I proudly bowed my head.
Can of tea coming right up.
Thanks. I owe ya. Hold the friggin' phone. This is jasmine tea. You have a grudge against my taste buds or what?
I thought you liked Chinese food.
And it's proper lukewarm too. Leaves a bad taste in my mouth.
Despite his grumbling, Belial glugged his jasmine tea down in one go once he was done with the food.
You got yourself a deal. I'll give you one hell of a crash course.
Crash course?
Yes, I've been thinking of undergoing training. Sorami wasn't actually as surprised by that piece of information as I thought she would be.
Oh, okay. But what are you gonna eat?
I should make do with something.
Come on, don't be like that. What you need is a packed lunchbox from yours truly. Since you'll be doing training, guess I should go for a hearty meal to help you regain stamina, right?
Sorami flashed a dazzling smile. I very much appreciated her considerations. Thank you. Lilith shot a suspicious glance our way.
You know, you two sound just like a couple.
Belial and Camael both nodded at Lilith's observation while Sorami herself flushed bright red.
Come on, anyone do this much, right? Right?
I responded honestly. I'm not so sure.
What do you mean you're not so sure? God damn!
Sorami began nervously fidgeting in her place.
Oh? Is something bothering you, Razzie Poo? Raziel!
Lilith poked Raziel on the side, forcing the angel to slightly jolt up.
I'm fine, absolutely fine. Well, now go to the library to read books. Goodbye.
Raziel stormed out in a brisk place, her shoulder bumping into mine as she passed me. She cast a cursory glance at me, then rife with contempt, before silently leaving.
Yep, a splendid reaction indeed.
It looked like she had already known this would happen.
If there's one thing I understood from that, is that this is your doing. How about a fist to the face?
Whoa, hold it!
The hell? Isn't she a bit too old for this teenage rom-com bullcrap?
Oh, shut it. Women are constantly searching for love. Professor Harlequin said so.
Who?
So, Tendu Setsuna? What, want to get strong? If so, bring some clothes you won't mind getting dirty, and meet me at the gym in, let's see, 2 days? Make sure to heal all your wounds by then.
2 days later. Understood. Belial grumbled something under his breath before simply vanishing from sight, as he used some form of fast travel magic.
So that's all for today, folks. Setsuna, you go and rest up. Feel free to laze around for the next 2 days.
Very well.
I was serious, by the way. You don't need to do anything at all. Just stay under your blanket all day and sleep.
I do not particularly require sleep, though.
Oh, right. I guess you don't.
Besides, if I am sleeping, someone else will not be able to use a futon.
Well, then I'll just stuff your futon in the closet and have you sleep there.
You're totally treating him like a certain boy does with robot minions.
A what?
Well, isn't he kind of like that, though?
Lilith giggled to herself. After having decided not to raise any particular objections, staying still would hasten my recovery. After all, headed back to our room, restore me. Tendu Setsuna. Wait, I guess someone else can narrate this.
I feel like it would be Lilith.
Yeah, go ahead. Lilith.
Alright. Tendu Setsuna and Kugutsu Sorami left, leaving only Lilith and Camael in the hallway.
So, what happened?
What happened with what?
With Adam. The two of them reported to me upon their return. I heard there had been some disagreements.
Disagreements, huh? Camael did not take kindly to Lilith's tone.
Adam is a human of utmost importance. We won't be able to create a finer pilgrim than him.
Lilith's lips curled into a bitter smile. Come on. You know he's just an imitation.
A superb imitation may very well be the real thing. He's a full-fledged human through and through.
That's so. Tendo Setsuna seems far more of a human to me, personally. Camael's eyes widened. For a few moments, neither of them uttered a single word. Lilith absent-mindedly gazed into the distance, the same direction Setsuna had left in moments before. The angel had mustered the courage to go on, even though his expression reflected his discomfort.
Lilith, just what exactly is that man? Who is Tendo Setsuna?
What do you think? Camael's expression turned bitter at the sight of Lilith's positively devilish grin.
You won't be able to hide it forever. Even the angels are starting to grow restless, wanting to know what sort of creature he is. He may very well be one of our very few. He may very well be one of our few pilgrims. So I'd like to know what makes him tick. That way.
You could give him your full support?
That's the idea.
The angel nodded. Lilith, despite having exhaled a weary sigh, was beaming from ear to ear. You know, Camael, I've been thinking about this.
What?
You're actually a chronic nice guy, aren't ya?
Nonsense!
Camael averted his gaze, cheeks turning as red as the clothes he was wearing. Lilith hesitated for a moment, but ultimately figured Setsuna would care little for his past being exposed. Revealing his true nature would be another matter, though. Sorami might accept it without difficulty, but for Raziel, it could come as quite a shock. It's just as you suspect. He is no ordinary human. Camael gave an acceptant nod as Lilith went on, her expression growing darker. He was created to act as Babel.
Babel?
The Tower of Babel had been erected by people who challenged and vowed vengeance against God. To put it another way, he himself is Babel. And with that as her introduction, Lilith began to reveal Tendo Setsuna's past.
I felt a spell of dizziness come over me as we stepped into the night duty room. Great amount of blood at loss may have been a culprit. Either way, I need to regenerate it.
You okay?
Lilith could have been right. I may need to rest. We prefer a large serving of food later on. You do not mind? I was lacking energy after consuming all my nutrients. Either way, dinner time approached. The occasion would surely serve as the perfect opportunity to replenish my reserves.
Yep, big boys gotta eat big. I've got you covered.
I may not respond to any voices, so if you do happen to urgently need me for something, do not hesitate to give my shoulders a shake.
You're gonna sleep?
No, more like self-repair. Having said that, enter the closet, spread out a futon, or wrap myself in it, and temporarily shut down my senses: sight, hearing, smell, and taste, all except for my sense of touch. People refer to this as sleep. I close my eyes and order all my nanomachines coursing in my bloodstream, begin healing my wounds. Sorami's still in the kitchen, losing herself in silent contemplation. You know what? You narrate this, Kyle.
Setsuna appeared to have gone to sleep. The way he looked in the closet, eyes closed and all, was definitely sleeping, even if he himself would disagree with that assessment. Maybe I should just make a boxed lunch out of this. I mean, I'm missing various ingredients. Sorami let out a sigh. The kitchen was ill-equipped, no other way to put it. Far be it from Sorami to complain, but she would have at least preferred a kitchen suitable for cooking a proper meal. Couldn't the angels or demons just get everything in a second? Sorami certainly needed the ingredients, but remained clueless as to where she could go to get them. Well, whatever. Guess I'll just wait for Lilith to get back. The very moment Sorami resigned herself to that fate, the room's door flung open with impeccable timing. Huh? Welcome back.
James?
Oh, did I choose the wrong time to visit?
And in stepped a man, wearing a black and white suit, an air of elegance and eccentricity lingering about him. Sorami froze in place, almost like on command. She knew very well she was standing before one of Pandora's most influential people, or rather, demons. Hello, Mr. Astaroth, sir?
Miss Kugutsu Sorami, if I'm not mistaken. Are Lilith, Raziel, and possibly Tendo Setsuna currently present?
No, sir. They're not present. Setsuna was here, technically speaking, only locked up in the closet and in deep sleep. He'd only just gone to bed recently, so maybe waking him would not be a good idea.
I see.
And then Sorami realized something. Astaroth was one of the most powerful people at the Academy, someone who even played a part in its establishment. In other words, he knew this place better than anyone, which meant... Mr. Astaroth, sir? Or maybe I should go for Professor? This is kinda hard.
Use whichever you prefer. In any case, is something the matter?
I only have a little favor to ask, is all. The moment the words left Sorami's lips, Astaroth flashed a devilish smile.
My. A favor from none other than the Astaroth, Lord of Demons. Absolutely. I can grant any wish you may have, provided it's within my power. Naturally, the grander the wish, the bigger the compensation. Are we clear?
I kinda doubt I have anything to give, but... Sorami decided to just go ahead and blurt it out. So, anyway, please tell me where I can buy vegetables around here.
Vegetables?
Astaroth was genuinely thankful for the fact that none of his underlings were present to witness him like this. The millennia-old demon lord had found himself at a complete and utter loss, possibly for the first time in his eon-spanning lifetime.
Raziel, I guess you narrate this.
Okay. Raziel failed to muster up the motivation to work. Unable to find a book to read, her fingers reached for volume after volume, then pushed them back immediately. The more precise expression would have been that she was unable to find a book she wished to read right now. She was browsing her favorite section, history. On any other day, she would have been able to easily find a book, almost like the things were calling to her. This is strange. But today, all the volumes appear to be rejecting her. Naturally, the books themselves possess no will of their own, but rather, the problem lay with Raziel herself. That something within her was whispering into her ear, telling her to read another book today. I wonder what I want to read. She let the words slip out. The Dantalions stared at her, both of them frowning.
Care to explain the aloof mumbling? If you need a different book, go to another section. And if you don't need anything, do us a favor and leave.
One of the many Dantalion went on in a low tone.
No idea what to read, huh? In that case, how about we list a number of genres for you?
That could help me figure it out.
Indeed. Very well. Society, politics, law.
No.
Literature and literary criticism.
No.
Wizardry, occultism, psychic studies.
I doubt it has anything to do with those.
Economics, or perhaps science and technology. Sports, martial arts, military warfare. Education. Still not good? Maybe how-to books.
Raziel firmly shook her head.
Cooking, fashion, handcrafting, interior design.
Cooking? That finally elicited some sort of response from Raziel, to which the Dantalions approvingly all pointed in the same direction.
The cooking section's on the other side. Go 100 meters forward, then fly upwards from there. Books on the culinary arts are divided by country. You'll find Japanese food at the J shelf, naturally.
Thank you. Raziel took to the air, a faint smile dancing on her lips as the Dantalions began whispering among themselves.
She wanted cookbooks? It would appear so. But what does she need them for? To cook, I would assume. I wonder what made her want to cook, though. possibly to have someone else try her cooking. Well, back to work. After you.
The Dantalions each turned their attentions to organizing the archives. Raziel wondered why they thought it so strange that she would harbor an interest in cooking. Was it truly that odd? Maybe it was. The thought filled Raziel with a bit of sadness. As Raziel arrived at the designated area, she quickly let her gaze rush from A to J, spotting a number of books with Japanese characters on their spines. One particular volume had touched something in her heart. Found it! She pulled the book out, titled Flavorful Japanese Recipes, and promptly set to reading it. The book was quite generous with its pictures, so it took Raziel less than 3 seconds to finish. However, I wish I could understand this. Her confusion had precious little to do with the book's contents itself. Instead, she had difficulty understanding her own motivation for wanting to read a book like this. Raziel was at a complete loss. She recalled the palpable irritation she felt upon hearing Sorami propose the idea of a boxed lunch. Discomfort may have been too strong of a word, even. A slight irritation could describe it better. Raziel was an angel, and therefore had no experience with cooking. Never once during the several thousand years of her life did that fact ever bother her. In fact, angels could go 500 years without having to eat a single thing. In heaven, angels could drink soma and have their sense of hunger completely vanish. As such, Raziel herself had barely ever eaten any normal kinds of food. Until she came to Tokyo Babel. Humans possess appetite for food. When such a trait escalates out of control, it becomes greed, one of the deadly sins. As such, Raziel had never once cared for even the concept of cooking, until now. However, as Lilith, a demon who cherished such cravings and held the lust for food in high regard, and Sorami began to cook, Raziel gradually changed her mind. Lilith's culinary skills were more or less on the same level as Raziel's, though. She was adamant in her belief that instant ramen counted as cooking. The desire to eat delicious cooking, in other words, having an appetite. A craving for food. Wanting someone else to taste one's cooking, though. Could such a thing be classified as a craving? To have someone's taste one's cooking, then go on to compliment it, is that a right thing to want? Raziel did not know, yet she still wanted it. She wanted to cook for someone. For whom? Who exactly do I want to cook for? The Dantalions were not here to provide her with an answer. She wasn't certain if they could. There were only a handful of human candidates she could think of. Sorami? No, not her. And certainly not Lilith either, which left only one other person. But why? Why him? All these thoughts consumed Raziel to the point of even losing track of the passing of time.
And that's all I know about Tendo Setsuna's past. Quite the shocking tale, right?